Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're going to be continuing our series of shirim of the Zohar and the Parsha and the Parsha and the Zohar, uncovering the light of Rashbi within Taras Moshe, uncovering the Hiskalis of Pnimius HaTorah, which is the extension of the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu into the neshama of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, as we understood, as we spoke about last week, Alisa Lamarim V'Shvisa Shevi Lakachos Matanis B'Bnei Adam, that Moshe Rabbeinu went on high and retrieved the neshama of Shimon Bar Yochai, because the Zohar Kadosh is the Gilui of the Pnimius of Torah Shebechsaf of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is why Moshe and Rashbi are so fundamentally connected to one another. Both of them represent the beginning of the process of the Yechidei Hadoros and the Tzadikim Amitim, and we see as well in Rabbi Nachman's Sefer Likutei Moharan that there are two Hakdamos. Aside from the Hakdama of Rabbi Nassan, there is the Shir Na'im and there is the L'chuchazu. The Shir Na'im is a song about Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a song about receiving the Torah. It's a song about the Das of Moshe and Torah's Moshe and the unique nature of Moshe Rabbeinu, who stands in between concealment and revelation. As Rabbi Nachman points out, that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe is Gematria 345, and it stands between Shmad and Ratzon. Shmad, which is heresy, is 344, and Ratzon, which is desire, connectivity, is 346. Moshe Rabbeinu stands in the breach between the two of them, and he stands in between above and below, which is the secret of the Das of Moshe. For those who are above, it appears that he's below. For those who are below, it appears that he's above, because the Chut HaShedra, the line of Das, the Kav HaEmsai, is Oile Ad Lamala Lamala. It goes all the way up to the infinite light, so to speak, and it goes all the way down to the lowest possible expression, which is the secret of Moshe Rabbeinu, who's buried in a place that's inappropriate for him, which is where Moshe Rabbeinu is buried next to Baal Pa'or, which is the Klipa of Das, which is the Chilek of Amalek. And the job of our generation and the job of all of the tzaddikim is to bring Moshe Rabbeinu back into Eretz Yisrael. And prior to Moshe Rabbeinu coming back into Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh by the Kosel Ma'aravi, which is the secret of Mibein Shnei Akruvim, as the Baal Turim points out, which is Rosh Tevos Moshe, which is the true place of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the Kotel Ma'aravi by the Even HaShasi and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Before then, it comes back to Meron. And so when it comes back to Meron, and then it goes from Meron to Yerushalayim, so it's a return of Moshe Rabbeinu first and foremost from that place where it's inappropriate for him to be buried, and to find that meeting point between Moshe Rabbeinu and Rashbi, as the Ramchal points out in his Hakdamat Adir Bamarom, his beer on the Ijur Rabba. So there's a fundamentally beneficial and redemptive tenua inherent with looking at the Parsha from Torah's Moshe through the lens of the Zohar Kadosh, which is the Torah of Rashbi, because they're two halakim of the same exact Torah. It's the Galia da Araisa and the Stima da Araisa, and both are representative of one another. Be'ezras Hashem. Emasai Ka'asi Mar, Kishayafutz Mainosecha Chutza Mar, we can say Emasai Ka'asi Mar, Mar represents Sir, our master, Mashiach Tzidkenu. Mar is Rosh Tevos Moshe Rabbeinu and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. That the Emasai Ka'asi Mar, the process of the Geula, is returning back into the Zohar Kadosh and uncovering the secret of Pnimius from within the revealed expression of Torah. What we're going to be looking at in Parshas Vayigash Be'ezras Hashem. Parshas Vayigash is the encounter that a Yid has with a moment of decision in this life, a moment of decision making, a moment of activation, a moment where a person is going to fundamentally express themselves through an act of bechira to face reality in a way that demands strength, and it demands gevura, and it demands a presencing of oneself that one might not typically carry around with themselves. It demands an azus to kedusha. There's an azus to kedusha inherent within the parsha of Vayigash, because it's something that takes place at the brink. Yehuda, as we're going to see, is pushed to the brink because Binyamin, the tzaddik tachton, is going to be taken away as well, and it's already in the space of having lost the tzaddik elyon l'chayro, which is Yosef, and that's something that Yehuda could not tolerate. And so what Yehuda does in the face of this foreign concealment is he girds himself in the aspect of malchus to be present in himself, to express himself in this world, and to make a bechira letova. Because what we see in this week's parsha is going to ultimately be Vayigash Elav Yehuda, Vayomer Biadoini. That Yehuda, which represents Malchus, is going to stand up for itself. The human experience itself, the Ben Adam, is going to look upwards to that place where inspiration comes down from that place of Yosef HaTzadik, from that Yesod, from that Seder HaShdalshalos, from that process of above to below. And Yehuda, which is Malchus, is the perspective of below to above, the Aretz that receives from the Shemayim, the Nekeva that receives from the Zachar, the Kli that receives from the Or. But there are a klal that operates in a place of bittul gamor, and it just receives which is coming down from above. But there comes the times of hisoyrus where Malchus itself has to be misoyer, where it has to be hisna'ri me'afarkumi, that Yehuda specifically was coming from a place of strength and Azus de Kedusha that comes about from his ability to have said that he tzadka mimeni. Malchus recognizing leis lemegar meklum. At that place, Malchus awakens and it begins to rumble, it begins to express itself, and it begins to demand what it so desires, which is the secret of uncovering the light of Yosef HaTzadik. So in Vayigash Elav Yehuda, where Malchus is beginning to take shape in its strength, which comes from the bittul atzmi that it encounters, it recognizes that it's leis lemegar meklum, it has absolutely nothing of itself, and Mamela it has everything. That's the secret of Malchus. That's the secret of Malchus that can send downwards into the darkening spaces of experience, but it could also send upwards afterwards in the secret of Evan Maso Habanim Haisel Pina. And this secret of Malchus taking its strength, developing itself from all of the Chayalei HaMalchus, from the three places, from the three elements of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, the worlds of separation. And the worlds of separation and the Malchus of Atzilus that is mislabish down there is awakening, and it's desiring to now speak back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kuvyachol, to say to Yosef HaTzadik, to say to the Hashpa'ah, to the Shirish HaElyonim, which is the secret of Kichoil Bashamayim, which is the secret of Yisod. The Aretz awakens and it says, Vayigash Elov, Yehuda Vayomer Bi Adoini, that Malchus awakens to uncover the deep strength that it contains within itself, the sense of din, the sense of the power of Yehuda, that it's the Sha'ag Ka'arye, it's the secret of the Gevura Ilah, and the Hisgabrus Hanafshit of Klal Yisrael that awakens itself from within all of the concealment, from Bria, from Yitzira, from Asiya, as we're going to see, from the Nefesh, the Ruach, and the Neshama. And so the Ketan in the Zohar Kadosh that we're going to see is oriented towards this awakening that comes about when Malchus itself comes closer, and it's Niskariv, and it's Vayigash Elav Yehuda, that Malchus decides to stand up for itself, and it uncovers the secret of Azus de Kedusha, which is Megala, the Rav Koyach of Malchus, which is the secret of Malchus Agnuz Baradla, that in truth this thing without power is rooted in the highest power imaginable. And Vayigash is Rosh Tevas Vayidin Shrai Gevalt, that Oy Ve Yidin scream out Gevalt, as the Tzaddikim point out, as Ravitcher Meyer Shlita brings down from the Tzaddikim. Vayidin Shrai Gevalt, that koyach of Gevalt, as Rav Tzadok says in Parshas V'eschanan, that the tefillah that comes about from the secret of tefillah la'ani, the tefillah of Malchus, is Gevalt. It's a person who has nothing left but the ability to yell Gevalt. In that lashon of Rav Tzadok, he says Gevalt. Vayidin Shrein Gevalt, that this secret of the koyach of Yid to scream out in a makom of tzara is the secret of Malchus awakening itself to its true koyach, which is the secret of just being a merkava to the Hani Ha'elyon of Ani Hashem Elokeichem, that ultimately Malchus is rooted in the Atik in the higher world, because the highest world's lower level, which is Malchus, becomes the crown of the lower world. Mamela Ani and Ayin, Malchus is always the gateway to uncovering a strength that is far beyond our natural capacity to grasp, because it grabs hold of the root. And this awakening that Yehuda encounters is a secret of Via Samashiach, and this encounter of Mashiach ben David that faces back against the dangers of Mashiach ben Yosef, and it reorients the entire process of history and the entire process of what had been unfolding until then. It was the awakening from below, the Isarusa Dilatata, that even precedes an Isarusa Dilaela. Avada comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but this Koyach Atzmi of Nishmas Yisrael to be Vaya'amod HaYehudim, that they could stand upon their own Raglayim, to be Megala, the Raglay of Mashiach, in the place of Malchus, in that lowest place of the Akvayim, and the ankles and the heels, it's in that place that Yehuda reveals his true Koach. And I believe that this Zohar Kadosh is speaking to this point. It's telling a tale of Rav Yitzchak and Rav Yehuda who were walking along the road. Rav Yitzchak and Rav Yehuda who were Talmidim of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai from amongst the Chavraya Kadisha. And these two elements of Yitzchak and Yehuda, Yitzchak is Gevura, Yitzchak is the Gevuros, it's the intensification of self, it's the strength, it's the courage to be Moiser Nefesh, to stand up for oneself and to scream Gevalt, Vayid and Shrei Gevalt. And that koach of Yitzchak, which already the Zohar Kadosh previous to this is already talking about how that koach is necessary for Geula, and the secret of the Gemara that says it's only going to be Yitzchak who's Megala the Geula to Klal Yisrael in the future. So it's Rav Yitzchak and it's Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda is Malchus, so it's the Gevuros that are Boina Malchus. It's the conversation taking place with Malchus itself, which is the process of Malchus uncovering its true strength and standing up in the face of the expression from above that seems to be pushing it into a corner. And it's Malchus Yisrael, it's Knesset Yisrael standing up again and building the Bayis Ne'eman. So the high aretz, so the Zohar Kadosh says as follows: Talchazi, come and see. Kad bara kudsha berichu leila adam, ichnish afre me arba sitrin da'alma. That come and see when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the human being, ichnish afre me arba sitrin da'alma. So his creation was a collection of the dust of the earth from all four sides of the world. Now, the dust of the earth, the afar demanakula, like we spoke about in the Hakdama of the Zohar Kadosh, that the introduction to the Zohar is afra afra kama chadal at. That Reb Chia is looking at the dust that swallows up Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he's saying, how brazenous are you? How empty are you? Because afar represents the stuckness and the thickness of atzlus and atzvus, as the Balatanya points out in the name of Rav Chaim Vital and Shari HaKadusha, that it drags things down to the ground, and it's the koyach ha-moishech, as Rabbi Nachman describes, that hakol yashuv la-afar. But at the same point, afar is the mana de kula, and it's the secret of malchus, which is the lowest that's going to be revealed to be the highest, and it's the afar, that's the karka of the Mishkan, which is in truth the highest level of the next world, and it's from this afar that nafshi ka afar lechol, that everything is contained within afar, everything is contained within malchus, everything is contained within the nefesh, even though it seems to be the lowest level in the world. So over here, we're seeing that the creation of the human being, the secret of Adam, the secret of malchus, is ultimately, yes, it's a collection from the four-sided nature of this worldly experience, from the fourth letter, the letter Hey, in the Shem Yud Ke Vav Ke, or the letter Yud in the Shem Aleph Daled Nun Yud, the last letter always representing Malchus. So it's a collection. The human being is mamish, a collection of dust from across the earth. The Avid Garme be'eser de Mikdash Latata, v'imshech aliyah nishmatza dechayim be'mikdash Eila. And then immediately the Zohar Kadosh reveals the Tnua, the hidden Tnua, which is the book that reveals the power of the Ben Adam over the Malach, specifically because the human being falls into a place of concealment and Afar and Malchus, like Yehuda, where it's that it's Shachal Afar Nafshi, that my Nefesh, my Malchus, has fallen down to Afar, but it's also Rabim Yeshne Haaretz Yakatsu V'Yarinu, that there's also going to be the awakening from the dust itself. So immediately the Zohar Kadosh says, in spite of the fact that a person is composed of the four corners of dust, the Avad Garme be'eser de Mikdash Latata. But his body was made and it was created and it was situated in that place of the Beis HaMikdash below. That immediately we see that, yeah, it's Malchus, it's a low thing, it's an offer, but ultimately that's the secret of the Beis HaMikdash, the secret of the Korban, the secret of the Nefesh, that is Makriv itself. That my Nefesh is Sa'aroi Gachar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the secret of the Korban. And the body, the self, which is rooted in that dustness of self, that heaviness of self, in truth, it's also it's built in the place of the Beis HaMikdash Lamata. And then what happens? Then the body itself, the Malchus itself, is filled, it draws down a light of life. And where does it draw its neshama from? It draws its neshama from the Beis HaMikdash above that's always perpetually built. That the Yid on every level, when the neshama is in the guf, in spite of the fact that the Beis HaMikdash is charuv down here in its appearance, and the Mishkan is nignaz, mikol makom, every Yid is a Yid who lives in the Beis HaMikdash because the neshama itself is drawn from the Beis HaMikdash ilah. And as we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will only build the Beis HaMikdash below when we enter into the Beis HaMikdash above, just as he'll only build the Beis HaMikdash above when we enter into the Beis HaMikdash below. And so what a Yid has to recognize is that in spite of the fact that a person is composed of the dust, of the Malchus, of the lowest level, of the four corners of the earth, nevertheless, it is brought to the physical place of the Beis HaMikdash, and it also draws down from the loftiest place of the Beis HaMikdash Elyon. So it's the highest level being expressed in what appears to be a very lowly level. And this nishmasa, iu klila b'plas dargan. And what is this neshama? What is this vitality? What is this breath that emerges from on high to animate the individual below, to compose the subtotal of their graspable and conscious grasp of their personalities and their spiritual aptitude and the capacities that we have to function, at least in a revealed way? Where does it come from and what is it? It's composed of three. Now, this composition of three is always the nature of all things, that when you microscopically break down something, first and foremost, you're going to see three that is two, that is ultimately one. The three looks like the left, right, and the center, above, below, and middle, inner, middle, and outer, head, heart, body, Oilamos Neshamos Alikus, or Ein Sof, Tzimtzum, Adam Kadmoin, Shiras HaKelim, and Oilam HaTikun, Hachna, Havdalah, and Hamtaka, Shachris, Mincha, and Mariv, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Shalosh Regalim, v'chulei, v'chulei, v'chulei. that the threeness of things is nearly always apparent. As Rav Kook points out, it's the first point and the closest point to unity that is still outside the realm of unity. And then what's revealed is that those three are really two. That two is really ultimately going to be the secret of Chesed and Gevura, that all there is are the right and the left, darkness and light. And that two-ness is ultimately going to be revealed to be a singular unity, which is the secret of Noise HaKol, and the Nimna Kol HaNimnos, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealed to be Koilel, all of the Hafachim Biachad. So over here we see that, yes, it's a singular neshama, but the neshama has three compartments to it. And what are the three compartments of this neshama that animate this guf that is drawn from this low place, which is the way that we revitalize ourselves in the aspect of malchus to uncover that azus to kedusha that we need in order to face the certainty of the uncertainty of the situation? It's composed of three dargin. What are these three dargin? Va'aldot la shimin inun l'nishmasa. And as a result of this, there are three names to the neshama. What we see in the Zohar Kadosh is that, yes, there's differentiation, and differentiation leads to the differentiation of names and terms, but nevertheless, those three parts are still comprising and inherent within a singular unity. It's just three different names to the same exact thing. Flashim inun l'nishmase. What are the three names for the neshama? Kegavna deraza ilah, like the secret of above, nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Naran, the three parts of the self. The nefesh that rests in the kaved, in the habituated and the habituated and almost genetic disposition of the self, which is the secret of mutva, that's the netzachoid, and the yasoid of the self, that's the nefesh, that's the body. The ruach is the lave, which is the chesed gevura, and the teferes, which is the secret of emotions, which is the secret of breath, which is the in-between between the body, and the neshama, which is the spiritual aptitude which rests in the mind itself. So we have moyach, which is the place of the neshama, the heart is the place of the ruach, and the body is the place of the nefesh. And those three things represent the Naran. They represent the three-part breakdown of the individual, which is this creature of being a human being of Malchus. Nefesh ha'ukma de'ihu tata mikula. What we've already explained is that the nefesh, which is the lowest part of all of them, is the body itself. Ruach iyu kiyuma deshalta al nefesh. The ruach, the spirit, the emotions, the lave hapnimi is what rests above the nefesh with a certain form of control over the nefesh in an idealized form. V'yu darge ilah Allah lakaima Allah bekula k'dkachazi, and the ruach that emerges onto a person later on in their life kind of gives the ability of a top-down level of control over the raging nature of the body, and things begin to operate in the way they need to operate. Neshama, what is the neshama? Ihu kiyuma ilah. The neshama is the ability to sustain oneself in a supernal sense. Al kula, it rests upon everything. Vishalta al kula, and it has control over everything. Darga kadisha ilah, it is a lofty and holy level. Al kula, upon all of them. Ve'ilin plus dargan klilin behu b'bnei nasha le'inun dezachin lepolchena demarehun. And this is the level that is applied to the individual with the proper fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the orientation towards spirituality and the respect for their master, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Deha b'kadmisa ispe nefesh. In the beginning, what exists prior to all expression is the nefesh. The nefesh is the lowest body. V'ihu tikuna kadisha le'itakna ba'barnash. And that is the space, that is the developmental stage which operates in the youth of an individual, which is a rectification of the nefesh until the age of 13. And that nefesh applies to everyone. And what Rav Chaim Vital is Masber and Shar Kudim, and it's a deep secret that ultimately he doesn't remember if he heard, but he thinks he heard from the Arizal that even though it's just nefesh, nefesh contains all within it. It contains a nefesh, ruach, neshama, chay, and yichida, which means that no matter how low and insignificant the level, it still bears and maintains an access point to all possible levels. The Rebbe Shlita uses this teaching a lot because it's a yisoid miyusad in the Torah of the Rashash and the Torah's Chacham of the fact that the klal and the prat are equal at all times. It's just a positional relativistic shift that is needed in order to reveal whether something is operating as a part of something, and there we're not looking at the latent wholeness that exists within it because it fits into the system at this moment as a part and not as a whole. But then when seen in its isolation from the perspective of being something disconnected from another sugya where it's no longer relativized, in and of itself it contains all possibility. Because ultimately everything is in everything, and just like a person who saves one neshama of Klal Yisrael, it's as if they've shamed the entire, that they saved the entire Klal Yisrael, because everything is contained in everything, and the prat and the klal are equal. And so first and foremost, the nefesh comes, but in truth, we can look at that stage prior to maturity, where a person is still functioning with a tendency towards the rulership of the body, as containing all possible expressive stages as well. Even the asi barnashla adachia bahayu darga istaken la itra beruach v'ihu darga kadisha desharya al nefesh la atrebe barnashahu dezachi. If a person is worthy of rectifying that nefesh, of taming that nefesh, and ultimately then they are ready to reveal the latent potential, in accordance with what we said to Rav Chaim Vital before, that all levels are latently present in spite of the fact that they're not expressed in an explicit way. Then a person has the ability to crown themselves and to crown the aspect of the nefesh with the crown of ruach, meaning to say that ruach and the maturity of emotional aptitude and the ability for a person as a human being to function in this world with a social intelligence and an emotional intelligence in a healthy way, and to be empathically present and to take care of oneself in an emotional way, that is not in negation to the body, but rather it is the taking and the utilizing of the body itself and the bodily experiences, and allowing emotional aptitude and the top-down control of the heart to utilize the body itself to better itself. It's never nefesh and then ruach, as if ruach is graduation from nefesh and then we let go of it, but rather it's nefesh and then it's nefesh ruach. Like we spoke about the incremental growth in holiness, the previous stages never dissipate. And so the ruach comes and it engarbs itself around the nefesh, and it orients the nefesh, now the body, to a more emotionally sensitive and empathic way of living. Once a person has completed and engaged in the work of the nefesh and the ruach, and that completion and that work is always on a relative level because it's never complete, and it ascended in the service of its master, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the correct way, in accordance with that individual's particular stance in this world. At that point, the neshama, which is the transcendent level from above, rests upon the mishalta al kula, and it takes control over the nefesh and the ruach, meaning that the neshama is not in opposition to the emotions of the ruach or to the natural tendencies and habituated nature of the body, but rather the neshama comes to engarb the two, to elevate the ner, and to create the ner Hashem nishmas adam. The ner, the nefesh, and the ruach are at the service of the neshama now, and what happens is the neshama is now able to reveal itself in an even greater way, because in truth, as we're going to always see and always understand in the depths of Pnimi Satorah, that it's the nefesh and the ruach, it's the lower levels that ultimately contain the deepest secrets. And in the future, as Hasidus teaches, and it's explicit in the Rashash and the Lashem as well, that it's going to be ultimately the body that is going to be malamed to the neshama in the future. So we're going to come to see that the nefesh contained everything in its beginning. And that's where the neshama comes and it maintains the nefesh and the ruach, and it utilizes the nefesh and the ruach to allow it to reveal itself in an even more powerful way. Begin atra bedarga ilah, so that the individual can recognize and identify themselves with the crowning jewel of this transcendent level of the neshama. Kadein ihu shlima dekula shlim b'chol sitrin lemizke ba'alma de'asi v'ihu rechima dekutchabrichu. And at that point, when a person has refined those three levels of the nefesh, ruach, and the neshama, the bria, yitzir, and asiya, where the malchus is in the slabish, and they could be mitchazik themselves and pick themselves up, and it could be hisnari me'afar kumi, and the malchus that is yored into the worlds of bria, yitzir, and asiya, which is the secret of the wandering of Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yehuda, and this fear, this encounter, which Vayigash love Yehuda, that over here we see how malchus can be boina itself, and a person could be mechazik zayin in the nefesh, the ruach, and the neshama, and identify the innermost point of their strength. And at that point, the person in this world already is zoiche to alma da'asi, which is the secret of what we're all trying to do. Vayigash love Yehuda vayomer bi'adoini, and malchus is being oile to shemayim, and it's saying, even down here I have everything. I have the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in me. Yichud ilah is looking at yichud tata, and it's saying that I understand that I am on equal footing with you, because I am equal representative of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you need me as much as I need you. Malchus Yisrael, the Tanai of Malchus is that it's a hiskabris atzmitz, until it recognizes that Rebbeinu Shleilam on a certain darga avodah l'tzarach gavoya, and we're saying to Yosef, we're saying to the Sherish of Hashpa'ah, that the Makabel, the Malchus itself, is going to stand up for itself. And that's the secret of Rabbi Yitzchak, the Gevuros of Rabbi Yehuda, of Malchus being Miskaber and being Poel. And then we can understand the context of the Daf and the Zohar, where the previous conversations are all about how what happens above is totally in contention upon what happens below, because the secret is Vayid and Shrei Gevalt, that when Malchus itself, when Nishmas Yisrael is awoken from within the confines and the Meitzarim and the Yerida of Binyamin and Yosef and Nishmas Yisrael and 12 Shvatim and Yaakov Avinu and Yisrael Saba down into Mitzrayim for the sake of the Geula Shlema, So over there's a hisayrus of v'yar elokim v'yidar elokim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees, and he sees the tsar of Klal Yisrael, and he sees the pain of Klal Yisrael, and at that moment it's vayid and shrei gevalt, and there's an awakening of malchus, and it's oila miyad ad ein soif mamish, and in that place Yehuda is magal himself to be a certain level above Yosef, even though it appears to be lower, as the Baal Tanya points out in Torah or in this week's Parsha of Vayigash, I love Yehuda, and Be'ezus Hashem we should be zoichet to have azis to kedusha, to awaken ourselves and the malchus that is inherent within each and every one of us, even when it feels that we're not a melech, like Rabbi Nachman says in the story of the Shava HaBatlarim, where the son of the king is warned that you can be king as long as you're happy, even when you stop being king. And what we're doing here with Vayigash Elav Yehuda, that the king who forgot that he's king is waking up and he's coming back to the viceroy, and he's coming back to Yosef, who appears only to be king, and he's the one that all the Shvatim are going to bow down to, Mashiach ben Yosef v'chulei, and David Malka Mashiach is awakening, and he's saying, no, 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 I'm a king also, and that's the secret of that mi barosh ben David barosh, that ultimately Yehuda is lamala me Yosef, in the deepest level of Eishes Chayil Ataris Baila, and that's the secret of the Hiskabris Ha'atzmis, and the koyach that oiz la'amo yitain, Hashem yivarech hasamu b'shalom, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives strength to Knesset Yisrael, that Malchus itself has its own tikkunim, as the Ramchal points out, and the Hiskabris of Vayigash Elav Yehuda, Vayid and Shrei Gevalt, the secret of screaming at Gevalt, and that's the secret of Binyan HaMalchus, Misecha Klipa, and the Hiskalus of the Keser Elyon, which is Eishes Chayil Ataris Baila Be'ezras Hashem.